Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, I want to tell you why the Kilo 141 is underrated, especially in Warzone. It's been a little while since we've done an in-depth because there hasn't been a lot of new updates or patches or stats. And today's in-depth, I'm not going to lie to you, is a little bit stat light and more subjective because I've kind of already covered all the stats for the Kilo and every weapon we're going to compare it to. So we're just kind of building off of the knowledge that we already have and trying to make the best decisions that we can. But the M4, Grau, and Bruen still dominate Warzone to this very day. Those are the popular meta weapons, the ones that you see all the time, the ones that players want nerfed. But I gotta tell you, the Kilo 141 is gaining on them in popularity. In many ways, I think I'm actually behind the curve in this video because I see a lot of people running the Kilo, and for some good reasons. I too have personally enjoyed using it for reasons that are subjective, but I do think I'm going to be adding it to my overall mix of weapons. So let's take a look at the stats of where the Kilo compares to the other weapons, and then maybe some of the more subjective things that I think makes it better. So the Kilo deals the exact same amount of damage as the M4, Grau, and Ram 7. It'll take the same amount of shots to kill, the same amount of headshots, the same shots up close and at long range, and all of you have used those weapons a bajillion times into the ground, so that's exactly what the Kilo does. You know exactly how it should feel, what to expect, and there's no big surprises there. A lot of the 5.56 weapons perform very similarly. And the Kilo 141 has almost the exact same range as the M4A1, which we're primarily going to be comparing it to today. It just has 1 meter less range. If I'm not mistaken, I think the M4 is like 30 meters for its max range, and the Kilo is 29 meters for its max range. And that could even come down to a measuring error on my end. So in-game, you'll pretty much never experience that. That does carry over to the longer barrels too. So if you put a longer barrel on the Kilo, which would be the Prowler if I'm not mistaken, or Grenadier or Corvus for the M4A1, they'll both have about the same max damage range of approximately 40 meters, with the Kilo being maybe 39 meters, but again, it's so close, we're kind of like splitting hairs on that one. It's difficult to measure. So the weapon is very similar to the M4 in a lot of ways. But there are a few ways in which it's worse, and I'm going to tell you about those after I tell you about today's sponsor, which is you. No products, no shilling, none of that sort of stuff. I just wanted to wish you all well. I wanted to tell you that I hope you have a great day. And if you can do something for me, I want you to do something nice for somebody else. Somebody else out there in the world could use a hug, a thank you, a helping hand. Just do that and let that be today's sponsor. So let's move on to the rest of the stats. Let's take a look at the rates of fire of these very popular weapons. The Kilo is 750 rounds per minute, which is respectable. M4 shoots a little faster at 800 rounds per minute, meaning that it will kill faster ultimately since they deal the same damage. Grau is a little bit slower than the Kilo at 730, so the Grau is going to have a slower time to kill, even though it may have better range and accuracy depending on how you hit it. And the Ram 7 is the damage pump of this group at 860 RPM, meaning that it's going to kill quite swiftly, but as many of you know, the Ram 7 is also quite difficult to control, so not everybody gravitates toward that one. The important thing to take home here is that the Kilo can kill people slightly faster than the Grau at pretty much all ranges, and it'll kill people slightly slower than the M4A1 at pretty much all ranges, so it's already in a very good crowd. I mean, the Grau and M4 are probably the #1 and #2 assault rifles, and the Kilo is kind of squeezing in right in between the two. It might actually edge one out of #2 and bump it down to #3. And it's just barely less than these weapons in terms of time to kill. When you look at the raw numbers for it, like how much faster and how much slower, you're coming down to sometimes as little as 20 milliseconds, which is a frame and maybe 2 frames if you want to round up. It's like a frame and a third of a frame, which is something that very few of you will notice and something that will make a difference in very few gunfights unless you're playing like CDL, like world stage, playing the best people in the world, and you both quick draw cowboy gunfight each other at the exact same time. So effectively, what it's going to feel like is that these weapons all kill at about the same speed. And I think that people have been ignoring the Kilo 141 because of its slightly slower time to kill, because it will kill 1 frame slower than the M4. This was especially true of the M4 in multiplayer in Call of Duty, and since all the stats carried over to Warzone, most of the players knew that the Kilo was just a slightly slower killing version of the M4A1, but I think a lot has changed since we made that initial assumption. The Kilo 141 has some great attachments and handling attributes that in my opinion make it superior to the M4A1, and not even equal. I think it's worth that 1 frame slower killing to get some of these things. And I want to take a quick focus on 2 attachments. The first is this weapon can have 100 round mags, which is just godly for Warzone. And the second one is that it has an integrated suppressor. Now I know that M4 has that one as well, and we'll talk about why this one's better in just a moment. But the 100 round mags basically make the Kilo into an LMG. And it'll also handle better than most LMGs because its base is an assault rifle. You'll have good movement speed, good ADS speed, good recoil, good mounting, good reloading, good. It doesn't even have a reload penalty for the 100 round mag, which is awesome. You can just pop it in and out super duper fast. And it doesn't hurt the weapon that much. Yes, it hurts the weapon. Yes, you do get some ADS and movement speed penalties. But I think it's a fair trade-off to just have 100 rounds to spam people down with, and I do it all the time. The only actual downside to having 100 rounds, in my opinion, is the fact that I tend to waste my ammo. I tend to get a little bit overzealous with the spraying and waste more ammo than I should just because I don't really have to take my finger off the trigger, but it's still just really, really awesome to have. That is a huge benefit for your primary weapon, especially in a game mode where if enemies are far away, it can take quite a number of shots to kill. You can wipe entire squads with this without reloading, which is super cool in my opinion. The next one is that it has a better integrated suppressor barrel than the M4A1. So when you put it on the Kilo, it actually gets a range boost up to 35 meters. This one's an integrated monolithic suppressor, and it improves your overall range while suppressing your weapon. And I think that's really cool, and that is a really efficient attachment for Warzone where your attachments are very critical. The M4A1 does have an integrated suppressor barrel, but it's like an integrated lightweight barrel, so you actually lose a little bit of range. It'll ADS pretty fast. I think it's one of the snappier barrels, but it doesn't work quite so well for Warzone. So in that comparison, I really wouldn't use the M4 integrated suppressor, but I would strongly consider using the one for the Kilo. And another subjective thing is that, well, this is almost objective, is that the Kilo 141's recoil is better than the M4A1's recoil, in my opinion. You can see the little firing test and the comparison here on the screen, with the Kilo 141 being on the left and the M4A1 being on the right, and you can see there is a colossal difference in the amount of total recoil. I do admit that the M4 has probably a little bit more consistency in the first few shots, but then after that it kind of falls apart, whereas the Kilo stays pretty on target. It's even more on target when you mount, and I just generally prefer the way the Kilo kicks and shakes and its recoil over the M4A1. However, there's one other thing. I like the Kilo iron sights better than the M4 iron sights. For whatever reason, I could never really get behind this version of iron sights. I personally subjectively struggle to track the things that I'm trying to shoot. The little pieces on the side are very annoying, but the Kilo with its big simple round rings, I always found very, very easy to use and effective enough to hit people at long ranges. So in a world where the M4 and Growl are constantly getting nerfed, they're getting recoil nerfs, range nerfs, damage nerfs, they're changing the idle sway, they're constantly messing around with these guns, and realistically the Bruen is so popular now that it's probably going to get nerfed too in a very short period of time. The Kilo 141 stands out as an easier to use alternative that is very unlikely to be nerfed. There's nobody complaining about the Kilo, nobody saying it's unfair, nobody calling for a nerf, nobody asking for anything really. The Kilo is just there, and it's an excellent weapon that people just are underutilizing to a really colossal degree. It's a weapon that I genuinely enjoy using, and I plan to play with it more often in Warzone. I think I might actually replace my Growl with the Kilo and make this one of my more common classes. I'm kind of experimenting with it to see exactly what I like on this weapon and how to really optimize it. But I'm going to go ahead and share with you my favorite loadout at the end of this video. First of all, I really enjoy having the 100 round mags. It offers me a lot of utility, even though it does slow me down a little bit, and I think that's probably one of the best reasons to be using the Kilo. I also like the VLK 3X optics on it because it's a very accurate weapon and it's got decent range stats, so with the VLK I can more easily use it at range, though it is usable with iron sights. I do like the Prowler barrel, which is its version of the heavy barrel, more than the integrated suppressor barrel. The integrated suppressor barrel is very efficient in a lot of ways, but the Prowler barrel boosts the range somewhat more, and it also reduces recoil, which is quite nice. If you're not as worried about the range and you just have better aim than me, then probably the integrated suppressor barrel is going to be better. I run the mono suppressor to stay off the radar, and then of course there is the tac laser as well to speed up all my ADS and handling since I've added these other attachments to it. In this video you've probably seen me run a slightly different setup. I still run the Prowler barrel and mono, but I pop off the VLK and instead I'll put on something more like a 60 round mags and a Mark IV grip and just use the iron sights, and that works really, really well. I haven't found a integrated suppressor class that I'm super in love with yet, but I might at some point in the future. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this somewhat subjective episode of In Depth. I hope that you learned something useful. I hope to see some more kilos out there on the Warzone, and if you did enjoy, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And here at the end, we'll have a bonus. I'll throw in some of my fun gameplay clips from the last couple of weeks that I post on Twitter, and I just hope that you enjoy them. Drifter out.
That's pretty high. That ain't enough for us, I don't think. Where is it? There it is.
Next objective located.
Cracked one.
Oh, I downed the pilot. No
Nice.
way. I hit him with the cowboy rifle.
Okay,
That's a clip. Everybody on Twitch, give me a clip. Take a gamble. Why not?
Fire sale is active. Buy station costs are adjusted.
The predictions. Oh. Hey, we got an anger truck coming in, guys.
I'm gonna blow him up.
No.
Oh my god, that was nasty.
Oh my god.
A few moments later.
Oh my god, you got